Well, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Visibility Era, the podcast. Today, we are here with Peter Shankman. Welcome to the show. We know you as the founder of Haro, now turned SOS, Source of Sources, but you are also a multi-passionate entrepreneur. We can talk marketing, we can talk branding, we can talk PR. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you guys. Good to be here.
We can even talk triathlete or Ironman. I saw that too.
We talk triathlon, we talk Ironman, we talk skydiving. The list is the single down.
We're happy to have you here. And, we've been just inspired on our side of your work with Help a Reporter Out, with Source of Sources. And we wanted to have you on here to, of course, talk about those things. But I think where we'd love to start is a little bit of your backstory, your background. How did you enter this world? Give us a little bit of a short preview or, I guess, excerpt of Peter's life.
It's a long, convoluted story. No, it's actually not. I was born and raised in New York City. I'm a city kid all my life, public school. Went to the Fame High School, the one that LaGuardia High School Performing Arts. I was a singer. I have 25 years of classical vocal training under my belt. I was in Boston University for journalism, and then graduate school for fashion and portrait photography. With 18 credits left to my graduate degree, I lost my financial aid. The government sent me a letter that said your parents make too much money. We're taking away financial aid. I sent the government back a letter that said my parents do make too much money, but they keep it. The government didn't find that funny. So I moved back to New York City. This is before either of you were born, but I was hanging out in something called the Melrose Place TV Gossip Chat Room. And in this chat room, someone was talking about their company launching a newsroom and they needed journalists. And would I submit my resume? And I said, sure, I have no experience. That'll be perfect. And I learned that sarcasm doesn't translate well on the internet. And I was hired 2 weeks later to become one of the founding editors of the newsroom at America Online. For those who didn't grow up on AOL, in the 90s, AOL was the internet, and that was it. So I was running the newsroom, or one of the co-founders of the newsroom, or the largest newsroom in the world, the largest online newsroom in the world at that point. It was an incredible experience. We covered the Democratic Republican. It was actually funny. 28 years ago last week, I was in Chicago. The last time the DNC was in Chicago, we were covering it live, and no one knew what the hell the internet was. And I remember they had Internet Row, or they had TV row and radio row and TV outlet, and they relegated us to like a corner of the convention center, like an alley, a little hallway, where it was me and MSNBC and MTV News, and we were all trying to cover the with the one phone line they gave us, and we had to dial in with a modem. It was an amazing experience. So, long story short, left AOL after 3 years, moved back to New York, started a PR firm for the dot-com boom, because it was right around the time, like 98, 99, dot-com boom was blowing up. I figured I could help create PR faster than the larger agencies, and it worked. We wound up repping Napster and Juno, AOL clients, all this incredible fun stuff. Had a blast. Saw the end of the dot-com bubble about to burst, the dot-com bubble about to end, and sold the clients and the staff, sold the agency to a larger firm. This is, I guess, 2001. Tried to take a year off, lasted about a week. I got bored. I went to Asia. I figured I'd bum around Asia for a year, and I came back 2 weeks later, and I called my mom. I'm like, I'm in Tokyo. I'm at the airport. I'm coming back home. She's like, why? You're supposed to be gone for a week. I'm like, you never taught me how to relax. It's your fault. Hung up. And yeah, moved back to New York, started consulting, started helping people, and I just wasn't diagnosed with ADHD at the time, but had it all my life. And massive ADHD means you talk to everyone. So I had this giant Rolodex filled with people. I mean, if you're on an airplane next to me, unless you fake your death, I'm gonna know everything about you by the time we land. And so I had this giant Rolodex, and reporters started calling me. They knew me from PR. They're like, hey, you do a lot of stuff. Who do you know? I'm doing a story on whatever. Who do you know? And yeah, so I would send out emails to my friends, whatever, and it just got too many reporters started asking me for too much info. So it got to the point where that became a thing, and I'm like, all right, let me see if I could make it easier and launch something called Haro. Haro blew up 3 years after I started. Less than 3 years after I started, it was acquired by Vocus. Vocus is now Cision. Cision, I worked with them for 2 years, made my earnout, and walked away. It was like 14 years ago that I sold it. They own it. It's theirs. They can do whatever they want with it. I started hearing from a lot of people that they weren't too happy with what they were doing with it. That people weren't too happy with what Cision was doing with it. So I'm of the belief that you can't go home again. And I didn't want to do I'd done that, right? Been there, done that. but yeah, people started calling and they started saying, hey, you should really do this again. I'm like, no. You should really do this again. Like, no. And finally, I was like, all right, screw it. And I did it again. And now we are Source of Sources. And we're at about 22,000, 23,000 people already who use it, who get emails from me 3 times a day, twice or 3 times a day, depending on how many queries we have. Small advertisement at the top of each email that pays for it. We are sold out of ads until I think late October. Yeah, it's going really well. It certainly, like I said, was not anything I planned to do, but it's going really well. I also do a million other things. As you said, I run a company called Mental Capital Consulting, which is a large consulting firm that I co-run it with a psychiatrist friend of mine. We co-founded it, and we help companies attract, hire, and retain neurodiverse employees while helping to make their companies more neuro-inclusive. Our clients there range from Morgan Stanley to Adobe to Google to Weber Shandwick, and we do a lot of work with them. So a lot of companies, that's starting to blow up as well. I've written 6 books, including a kid's book. I'm a single dad of an 11-year-old daughter who, thank God, is with my parents this afternoon taking in a Broadway show, which gives me 3 hours of peace because she doesn't go back to school until next week. Her mom has her some of the time. I have her some of the time, but her mom currently has COVID, so I have her all of the time, and it's never going to fucking end, and that's okay. And she starts school next week. And then I also have a 4-year-old rescue dog who's sitting over there who about an hour ago farted himself awake, and after he woke up and saw me staring at him going like, dude, what the hell, started barking at me like it was my fault that he's shooting fart cannons from the couch. Yeah, he's the rescue dog. That I'm a cat guy, so he's the rescue dog I didn't want. My daughter really wanted a dog. I didn't want a dog, and so we compromised and got a dog. So anyway, that's my story.
Thank you for sharing literally everything about Peter's life. Bridget asked, you delivered. So with Haro, I mean, I've been in PR for upwards of 10 years, so I've known your name for that long. And it's really cool to meet you now. So thank you for joining us on the show. But for Haro, I mean, I used it religiously until it no longer existed. And for anybody who doesn't know what Haro is, it's help a reporter out. And essentially what you were doing is connecting writers with specific needs that they had to cover in the media. So connecting them to publicists, to brands. I would love to know like when you came up with that idea. I'm sure somebody said something, or maybe it was just like a little inkling in the brain. Cause for me, I just find it so impressive with like multi-passionate entrepreneurs that are able to really see a need or a problem and then solve it. So what did that look like for you?
So like I said, when I wanted to start Haro, I didn't want to start Haro. Basically, reporters were constantly calling me, and it was taking away from my day job, which is like consulting and helping people and speaking and whatever. And I'm like, there's got to be an easier way to do this because I'm fielding like 5 or 6 queries a day and trying to find friends and people I know in my Rolodex who could do this, and it's taking a long time. That's where Haro was born. Source of Sources was born because if enough people complain to me about something, I have this innate desire to fix it. 4 years ago, I live a block from the Lincoln Tunnel in Manhattan, and in a high rise. And while the high rise is great, walking out on the street on like a Thursday afternoon in the middle of summer, the middle of winter, when there's 5 billion cars trying to get in Lincoln Tunnel, is not. So several years ago, I got heavily involved with Transportation Alternatives, who was trying to go for this congestion pricing structure in Manhattan. And when you're ADHD, you really only have 2 speeds, right? With everything you do, and those 2 speeds are either namaste or I'll cut a bitch. There's literally no middle ground. Right. So for me, it was, okay, let's get involved with this thing. And I'll get jumped on boards and committees and whatever. And, our governor totally screwed us and postponed congestion pricing, but it'll go through. But it's like one of those things. I don't have a middle ground. My joke is like, you guys ever come home after a long day or whatever and ordered a pizza, and you have a couple of slices and you just don't want to cook, right? So you have a couple of slices, you put the rest in the fridge, and leftover pizza, breakfast, whatever. I don't have leftover pizza. That's never been a thing in my life. If I order a pizza, I eat the pizza. There's no such thing as leftover pizza, right? And it's the same thing with virtually anything I do. Okay, I don't want to start this. Fine, I'll start it. And like 2 days later, it's up, it's running, it's generating revenue, right? So it's one of those things where I don't really have that moderation factor. Growing up, like an example, I've done Ironman triathlons. I've done 26 marathons. Growing up, I ran like only by pressing X on a joystick, right? Or like I ran to the store for cigarettes. That was about it. And then I had a coworker, a woman who worked for me in like the year like 99 when I was running my PR firm, and she was always a runner. And she's like, hey, come run with me. I'm like, no. She's like, no, you're always bitching about wanting to lose weight, so come run with me. I'm like, okay. So I ran like half a mile. I'm like, I nearly died. But the next day I'm like, I got to do that shit again. I was high as a kite, right? Signed up for a 5K. Most people do a 5K. They're like, cool, did that. Check it off the list. Go on with it. No, I signed up for a marathon. Did that. Checked off the list. Let's start triathlons. Why suck at one sport when you can suck at three, right? You know, I don't finish with the Kenyans. I finish with like guys named Ken. I'm slow as fuck. But that's the only way my brain knows how to work. So when I get an idea, it's either not going to happen or it's going to entirely happen, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So it sounds to me like, yes, you are neurodivergent, but you've used that really as almost like a strength for yourself with certain interests or business. And like how, I guess like, how have you seen it? Maybe when you were diagnosed, I'm not sure how you saw it for yourself, but did you see it as a strength, or like, what was that for you? Like, what was that experience for anybody who's listening who might have gone through a late diagnosis also, and was also thinking like, what does this mean for me?
Well, for me, I mean, I grew up being weird, right? I grew up being the strange kid. Fortunately, I mean, junior high sucked ass. It was horrible. But fortunately, high school performing arts, everyone was a freak, right? So I graduated with Marlon Wayans, Omar Epps, Jennifer Aniston, Adrian Brody, people like that. And I used to hold it all as a badge of honor. And then Nicki Minaj announced that she graduated from LaGuardia like 10 years after me and just fucked up for everyone. Now we don't talk about it. But when I was, when I was there and I was weird, I'm like, okay, this weirdness seems to be getting me stuff I didn't know at the time, right? All I knew is that people either really wanted to hang on me or didn't want to even have anything to do with me. There was no middle ground. And I get it. I had the social acuity of a turnip. When I got older, after I got married and 5 years later got divorced, I was trying to figure out how come I can start companies, sell them for millions of dollars years later, but I can't like take out the trash or remember to come home and calmly ask my wife about her day instead of going, my day was this, And I finally was talking to my therapist. He's like, well, have you thought about maybe going on medication for your ADHD? I'm like, I don't have ADHD. And he looks at me, he goes, huh. Okay. That meme where the guy's looking at me, that was literally my therapist. Like, and so sure enough, I got diagnosed. It was like a 100-question test. And, I think anything over 27 is a pretty good indicator you have ADHD. And I got like 97 correct. So I'm like, oh, maybe, So for me, what I had to learn, and I did this after, like in 2016, after I got divorced, I started figuring this out. And that, of course, led to the book Faster Than Normal that I wrote, this my first ever New York Times bestseller. My whole premise was trying to figure out why some of the things I do are so amazing and then some of the things I do suck, right? And how do you put in guardrails to make all the things amazing, or at least the ones that suck a little less sucky, right? And so, I discovered at that point, it was right in 2016, 17, I guess. I was a super OG early adopter of Peloton. And when I got divorced, my daughter was 3 and I had her for like more than half the time. Or half the time but those were days I couldn't work out, right? And so I got this Peloton, and all of a sudden I can get on the bike at like 3:30 in the morning, 4 a.m. and work out for 2 hours. And when my daughter wakes up, I'm focused. I have dopamine. I have all these chemicals. I remember when she was 4, like on a Sunday morning, I slept in a couple hours and she slept in. We woke up, we had breakfast. And over breakfast, she goes, Daddy, did you get on your bicycle today? I'm like, oh no, honey, I was tired. She goes, you're not as happy today. Kid was 4, right? And so for me, it was really about figuring out, okay, I know this is a superpower. What can I do to minimize the downsides? You guys remember a TV show called The Greatest American Hero? Okay, I know. Yeah. Okay, God, what are you, like 14? Jesus. So,
Yeah.
Believe it or not, I'm walking on air. Okay, you know that song. Anyway, you know what? I'm just going to talk to you, Lydia. Anyway, but my point is, it's about this guy. He's a school teacher, and he's in the desert one night, like on a camping trip, and aliens show up, and they take him and they give him a box, and in the box is a superhero suit, and gives him all these powers, right? But he loses the instruction manual, right? So he doesn't know how to use it, and he has to teach himself over the course of like the 5 years the show ran. He's teaching it, like he'll fly, but then he'll like crash into a wall, and he has to learn how to. So it's the same thing here. I had to learn how to use my ADHD for good, and learn how to rein in the negative. So that's where exercise came in. That's what, it's not a coincidence that when I bring my laptop to the drop zone and I do a couple of skydives and I land, I pull out my laptop and I write like 10,000 words in 5 minutes because I'm focused, right? So it's all about learning those things. And once you realize that everyone's brain has gifts, you just have to figure out what they are and how to use them. It's a game changer.
Yeah, I feel like you're really hitting on that each of us has some sort of genius. And if we can leverage that, if we can harness that, if we can figure out what that is for us and lean into it even more, it's almost like we hack these codes and we could be, like you, where you're able to build, create, identify opportunities, like see things that other people don't see. And build them. And another thing that like I've definitely witnessed you do, especially with Source of Sources, just reading the newsletter, is building a community, even through a newsletter, right? You are inviting people to events and saying, hey, like this is going on. Hey, like, do you want to meet me here? And people are responding. So was that always something that you knew was a gift of yours, like the ability to build community and bring people together? When did you realize that was your thing too?
I mean, I love knowing how to talk to people. I love being on stage. It's funny. I used to say I love being the center of attention, but I actually fucking hate being the center of attention. The only time I like being the center of attention is when I'm on stage, because when I'm on stage giving a keynote or acting, whatever, it's me up here and 10,000 people down there listening to me. When it's me at a party with like 17 other people and I have to walk around and make small talk, I will be in the second bedroom playing with the cat, right? I hate, my favorite shirt is a cat wearing a mask looking out of a window and going, ew, people.
We love the cats on your website also.
Yeah, we both were like, oh my God, look at this cat. I'm a cat person. So
that cat was NASA. NASA passed away in 2021, but NASA was the shit. I had him. He was 21 years old when he died. He was like the oldest cat ever. And I named him NASA because he would always run around. I'm like, you keep doing that, dude. You're going to orbit. Ooh, NASA. And that actually, random twist of fate, wound up getting me a seat on the NASA Civilian Advisory Council appointed by President Obama in 2008, which was awesome. So yeah, that cat was amazing. Waffle the dog got to meet NASA for a brief couple of months before NASA passed away. But yeah, so I'm the one playing in the second bedroom with the cat because I hate having to smile and fake small talk and do all that stuff. But I love being on stage. My perfect world is if I have to be at a party. Oh, Lydia, have you met Bridget? Bridget, you met Lydia. You guys are gonna love each other. Okay, I'm gonna go. Introduced, gone, right? So, and I think one of the things I realized is that when I started learning about myself is I can create great communities and introduce people and do great things like that. And I don't actually have to go out and be there. I cut down heavily. I quit drinking for several years. Now I drink very, very rarely, but I used to go out to events and, there'd be a drink in my hand and I wasn't trying to get drunk or anything like that, but it was basically that, much like the pizza, if there's a drink in my hand and there's an open bar, I'm gonna have another one. And then I'm gonna wake up the next morning and I'm not gonna feel that great. I'm not gonna want to work out. And all of a sudden I've gained like 40 pounds and I'm miserable and it's 2 weeks later. So it's just easier not to do the first one. The flip side of that is it's even easier not to go to the party in the first place. Right. And just, the number of times I've missed out on an incredible business deal by not going to a cocktail party or a networking party is exactly 0.
yeah, we were just messaging each other on the side. We message on the side like, hey, do you want to ask this question next? But anyway, we were both just saying like, this really does speak to us because we're big on community ourselves. But when it comes to bigger groups, we're like, we'll just connect you two and run away. So it's honestly, it was really helpful to hear you share that because it also makes us feel like seen in the way that we really do respond. But I love how you have had this unique perspective of seeing what your, again, superpowers are and kind of like having that really incredible awareness to shift it to something else. And speaking of your connections, the other day I saw you post in your newsletter that you were doing coffee in the morning. And I was like, wait, let me go to this. But I'm in Florida, so
I just said the hell with it. Let's do a breakfast. But again, that's sort of my brain. I was writing the email and I'm like, God, at some point I really want to do a breakfast. Oh, fuck it, I'll do it right now. And then, now we have a breakfast coming on Friday, 11 people coming. I went to the diner this morning. I'm like, hey guys, I need a table for 11 on Friday night. They're like, why? I'm like, I'm bringing people, it's like my local diner. So yeah, but that's my whole premise. Has always been that way. It's always been like, why the heck not?
Yeah, I love that. And I think for anybody listening, whether you, have some sort of neurodiversity or not, you can resonate with the like maybe it's time to rip the Band-Aid off and just do something. That's what I'm getting from this. I'm getting
Yeah,
a
I
lot
mean,
of inspiration.
the worst that can happen is it fails and you do something else. But the best thing that happens is it succeeds and you have this incredible time. Right? That's how I always look at it. What's the worst that could possibly happen? If it's not an international incident, if it's nothing like that, why the heck not?
Yeah.
Heck yeah. I love this. I'm curious about like the tech side of Heroin Source of Sources. It seems pretty simple. Is there anything that like you can share with us behind the scenes of what's happening? Or are you literally just typing this in some sort of platform, linking things together? Like, is it as simple as that? Because it looks simple and I love it.
So it is automated. It's automated to respect that the queries come in, they get put into a database. I approve them, I always approve them or deny them manually, and then the email is created. All I have to do is add the ad and a couple of lines about whatever I'm talking about, and I can send it. So I'm not like copying and pasting every single request I get. That's done automatically, but the queries are all approved or disapproved by me every day. I had an intern who was doing the job for the summer. She went back to college, so we hate her now, but hopefully she'll come back in the over Christmas break and again in the spring and again next summer. But yeah, at some point as it gets bigger, I'm gonna have to hire someone because that's just, that's what happened with my old company too. So, and I'm fine with that. The nice thing is I have a wonderful partnership with Muckrack. When they found out I was doing this, they immediately came in and said, hey, we want to sponsor you. We want to own the morning email for a year. And so we put together a great deal for that, which is great because we're the only company I mean, there's a couple, there's Haro and there's a couple of others that are out there that steal all my content and like repost it, which I think is hysterical. But what I love is that we're the only ones that have that partnership with Muckrack, where as soon as a journalist enters their email, it automatically links to their Muckrack profile, which allows the people using Source of Sources to get much more detailed information about the journalist before they pitch.
I absolutely love that. I'm obsessed with Muckrack. And I also think, so that we have Pitch Party, which is our course, and also masterminds. We're helping small businesses learn how to use these tools. And we like screamed Haro from the rooftops. Then when it switched over to SOS, we also screamed it from the rooftops. We also help them like learn how to use it properly. So it makes our job so much easier. We show them like what a Muckrack profile looks like, even if they don't have a login, just like go on Google, type in their name with Muckrack, just so you can learn more about them. So we really appreciate that. So I have a question for you in terms of emails, and me as a publicist. I love this, but I love that there's an actual email. So it doesn't feel like there's like a barrier and I can actually connect with the writer. Do you plan on keeping that function or kind of moving over to what you had before?
As long as the sources using it are not, and forgive me for saying this, try to dance, what is it? Dance, grow things, try not to be a dick. Okay, that's the rules of life. As long as the sources don't abuse having the person's email in there, I'm happy to keep it. If the journalists are telling me they're being abused, we're all going to a private system. As it is, I'm working right now on a forwarding system for ones who want their their query anonymous. That should be up in a couple of weeks, but no, I'm happy to keep them in there as long as journalists are okay with it, and as long as they don't come back to me and say, "Hey, this guy's being an asshole, this guy's being an asshole, this guy's being an asshole." Once that happens, it's gone. So it's up to you guys.
Yeah, that's super in integrity, and also like really protective of the journalist. Like at the end of the day, everybody's a human. We talk about this all the time. Like if you're emailing a writer, like to get coverage, they're helping you out, you're helping them out. It's kind of this like really nice ecosystem. So just to be like respectful and supportive, I think is absolutely key. Thank you.
And like I said, I'm never going to charge for it. It runs on advertisements. I think you guys, your ad ran this afternoon.
We did.
So I hope you guys get tons of responses from it.
Thank you.
It's one of those things also that like I don't have a board to answer to. I don't have like a profit margin I have to beat. I'm doing this because it's fun. I have 3 other businesses. I'm not worried about like, oh God, this has to support my kid and put my kid through college. That's already done, right? I sold the business for that. So like, I'm at the place where, okay, yeah, I know it's like 2 days before Labor Day weekend, right? If your ad doesn't do so well because half the audience is on vacation, email me. I'll give you another one for free. I don't care. I'm not. And it's funny because when I have a mastermind that I run called Shankman, we have about 100 people in it. And one of the things I tell them is you have to be more like the phone company, or more like, do you think when you call Chase and say, yeah, I can't make my payment, Chase is just like, oh, that's fine, just give us half. No, they're not. They're like, find a way to give us your payment, right? And I say you have to, when you're working with clients, you have to be like that. You have to be like, Chase is not going to care. They just want their money. And I do the complete opposite, right? My assistant tells me I'm way too nice. She won't let me, it's funny, when I give keynotes, she won't let me price myself anymore because I always underprice myself. She's in control now because she gets 20% of everything I get. And so she doesn't give a shit. She's like, give mom all the money. Right. So like I don't care if these people like me. I'm getting as much, so it's funny. But yeah, I'm definitely doing this for the love of it. And so I have a little leeway in that.
I think that shows. And I think like as the audience, as the users of it, we also appreciate it. It shows that you're having fun. I love your little anecdotes, like talking about what you're doing in the city or, like, okay, it's the daughter's graduation or whatever it is. So yeah, keep being you and keep doing that because those who are receiving are really enjoying it too.
I appreciate that. I mean, and it's funny because I think what people are saying to me is, hey, I just found out that you're calling it Source of Sources now. And I love that because I missed your voice. I'm like, all right, one in the history of time has missed my voice, but cool. Love it.
I love that. So as we start to wrap things up here today, I know you have so many exciting things that you have going on. What would you like to tell the audience about? What's important? What's special to you right now?
So, I mean, obviously, Source of Sources is free. Join it, get queries, feel free to use it, sourceofsources.com. If you're already using it, the number one question I get is, why aren't there more journalists on it? Well, because you have to tell them, right? If you guys are PR people, you have journalists. Be nice to them and say, hey, I have something cool you can use, right? It's totally free. It'll help you, right? Help me help you, right? But yeah, I mean, that's basically the premise. My goal is to grow it and really make it, the best one out there, which I have no doubt it will be. Give me a year. I'm just having fun right now. And so, my life, it's sourceofsources.com. I'm at Peter Shankman on all the socials except Twitter. I quit Twitter, which is a bummer because I used to love Twitter, but Twitter's now a Nazi flaming cesspool of hell and I can't be on it. But I do love, I make fun little stupid Instagram reels with my daughter. At Peter Shankman. I'm at Peter Shankman on Threads and feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, whatever. But I'm always happy to help. I'm a connector. That's what I do.
Thank you so much for being here today. I will absolutely be telling all of my PR people, all the journalists. I'm in a lot of Facebook groups too. We both are. So I'll make sure to let them know that we interviewed you today and to join. This was such a beautiful conversation. Thank you for being you. Thank you for doing amazing things in the media world. And we'll talk to you soon, Peter.
It was my pleasure. Thank you, guys.